ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। भवानी शङ्करो वन्दे श्रद्धाविश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धाः स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायाः पतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव हरि ओम हरि ओम. So we are seeing this beautiful portion of Bhagavad Gita, the Sthita Prajna Lakshana. So after listening to the Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga, the Sankhya Buddhi and Yoga Buddhi, Arjuna asked this question about Sthita Prajna. What are the characteristics of the person who has gained that abidance in the supreme knowledge that I am Brahma? So Bhagavan describes the Lakshana here, but at the same time he also gives us the sadhana by which we can meditate and gain this abidance in the supreme wisdom. So Sthita Prajna is one who is free of all desires and one who is supremely content and happy in his own supreme self. Doesn't get disturbed by the joys and sorrows of the world. Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigata spraha. Doesn't get disturbed by the sorrows and doesn't get attached to the joys of the world. So even a seeker who keeps his mind balanced doesn't get affected by the ups and downs of the world, doesn't get affected by the Shubha and Ashubha which he receives from the world, and who has got total control over his senses, just as a tortoise has control over its limbs. Similarly, a seeker who has control over the senses, such a seeker, when meditates, will be able to gain that steady abidance in the self. But if without, we should meditate after gaining proper understanding of the self. If that understanding is not clear, then we will not be able to meditate. Our attention will not be on the self. It will be elsewhere. So that will not help. So even if an ignorant person forcefully control his senses, that also doesn't help, because as long as you use the force, the senses will remain under your control. But as soon as the force is removed, again the senses will run after all the objects, because the rasa remains in the heart. The taste of the sense pleasures remain in the heart. That taste, it should go away, and it goes away when we have the glimpse of the Supreme in our meditation, when we get a taste of our Supreme Self, when we get a taste of that Supreme who is residing in our own heart, the taste for the world will disappear. So, Bhagavan says that control your senses and meditate. So when we sit for meditation, our organs of perception, that is the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, should be under our control. Not only that, but the organs of action too should be under our control. With this, when we meditate, we will be able to gain that abidance in our own self. Otherwise, even the one sense organ is so powerful that it will take away our mind from our attention, from our seat of meditation. So, indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. the indriyas are very turbulent and forcefully with lot of strength they will take away the mind. So what is the solution? I have gained the knowledge and I want to meditate, but the senses are also turbulent. What should I do? Bhagavan says, you, after controlling the senses, you should simultaneously also have that supreme love and devotion for that Ishvara. Bhagavan says, Tani sarvani sayyamya yukta asita matparaha. One who, controlling all the senses from all sides, sit in meditation with total dedication for the Supreme, considering Ishvara as his final goal and destination, having love, devotion, faith, trust, and total Sharanagati towards Ishvara, then our senses will come under our control and we will gain that abidance in the supreme knowledge. Tasya prajna pratishtita. So simultaneously, while controlling the senses, we should also have the dedication for the Supreme. Then that our sense, control over our senses will not be called suppression. Then it will be like sublimation, not suppression. If you control and dedicate your attention towards something higher, then it is sublimation. But if you control without having any goal, without having any dedication, then that will just be a suppression, and that will not help us in our sadhana. So right meditation we should learn. Meditation is nothing but paying attention. Paying attention to what I have understood as my own self, which is not different from Ishvara. Ishvara alone resides in us as Kshetrajna. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. So have that supreme love and total surrender to the inner self, which is beyond the senses, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the ego. Just surrender to that supreme self. Wakefully, consciously, proactively surrender to that supreme self. Bhagavan tells similar thing. Advice is given to Arjuna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, the very famous shloka, ki sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja ahantva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Bhagavan says, drop all the dharma. Drop all the dharma means drop all the identification which you have towards your body, mind, senses, and their respective functions. So just drop it. Just like we are using our mobile. So when we use our mobile, we as though function through the mobile. Like I am speaking here and all of you are sitting and listening to me. Though all of you are so far away in your own homes, locked down, all of us are in different places. So if I just speak here without the help of the mobile, you will not be able to hear. But when I take the help of the mobile and the technology and all the help of all the servers and all, then when I speak through the mobile, you can hear me. But suppose I just want to be with myself. What do? I just switch off the mobile, keep it aside, and just be with myself. to be with myself, I don't require the mobile. Similarly, if I want to communicate with the world, I use my body, my mind, my senses, the ego. But to meditate, I don't require all this. I don't require all these equipments of communication. I don't require all these equipments of interaction. So I just keep it aside and be with myself. Surrender to myself. I surrender to myself. We use all these terms, surrender and all, but one has to understand it very deeply and subjectively. So just be yourself. Drop everything. Drop everything means drop seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. Drop all activity at the level of the body, the senses. Drop all the activity at the level of the mind, the intellect, and just be with yourself. So that is the surrender to the Supreme Self, or surrendering to Ishvara. Whether we say surrendering to Ishvara, whether we say we should follow the path of Jnana Nishtha, that is making our wisdom steady, or we say Nivritti Marga, or we say Parabhakti, or we say Nididhyasan, all of them are same. So the meditation is the final step, the final, what you call the goal, the final step towards our supreme goal. After sincerely doing all our sadhana, following the path of dharma, thereafter following the path of karma yoga, then gaining vivek, vairagya and jnana, then dropping all the sense of doership, enjoyership, and meditating on this knowledge that aham brahmasmi. When we gain that abidance, that is the final thing. After that, one doesn't have to do anything. So this dhyana is very important. We should meditate on our Supreme Self. This will take us towards our goal. A right meditation takes us towards our goal. But a wrong meditation, improper meditation, can cause a great fall. See, when we climb a mountain, those who do that mountaineering and all, they have to be very cautious while climbing the mountain. Sometimes there are those steep, what do you call those sides of the mountain, wherein they have to use ropes and they have to use nails and they have to cautiously climb to reach the top. So in order to reach, they have to reach the top, they have to be very cautious, they have to follow all the rules, regulation, and they have to climb very steadily to reach the top. But one mistake, one wrong thing, and they can have a great fall also, which will be disastrous. Similarly, meditation on Ishvara lead us to moksha, but meditation on the worldly objects, on worldly pleasures, can be disastrous to any person, not only to the seeker, but to all people. It will be very disastrous. So that is a ladder of fall that is being now pointed out here in the following two verses to make us aware of it, so that we remain cautious. We remain aware. Just like during this pandemic, we are told that you follow certain precautions, use mask, clean your wash your hands regularly, keep safe distance and all those things. They are as a precaution. Similarly, we are Bhagwan reveals this fall for precaution, so we become aware and we avoid it. So what is it? What causes this fall? Bhagwan says, ध्यायतो विषयांस् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. भगवान सेज, शंकराचार्य जी राइट्स कि अथ इदानीं पराभविष्यतः सर्व अनर्थमूलम इदम उच्यते. After revealing the proper path, Bhagwan is here telling us the sarva anarthamul, the very cause of all calamity, all downfall for a seeker is revealed here. And what is it? Bhagwan says कि ध्यायतो विषयांस् पुंसः संगस्तेषु उपजायते. It begins with a dhyan only. Meditation alone can be very positive, and meditation can be very, very negative also. When we meditate on the self, it is very good. But when we meditate on non-self, on all the objects with their pleasures and all, then it can be very dangerous. Therefore, it is very important that we understand the nature of the self and meditate properly. Bhagavan says, Dhyayato Vishayans Pumsaha. A person, when he does this dhyana of Vishaya, Vishaya means Shabdadi Vishaya Visheshan Alochayatah. All this Vishaya, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. See, this world which we see, it presents to us continuously. Presents to us means to our senses. We come to know about the world through our senses. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So within a particular range we can hear the world. But human beings with their technology, they have increased the range also. So with the help of our radios and televisions and special equipments, we can hear sounds which are subtler, we can hear sounds which are grosser, but all of them are nothing but sound. And the different music and words and different sounds, they have their own attraction. Similarly, not only Shabda, but Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, all of them, they have their own attraction for our senses. In the 3rd chapter also, Bhagavan will say that our senses have their natural raga and dvesha towards all these sense objects. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavastito. Tayorna vashamagacche tav yasya paripantino. We are born with this raga dvesha. See, all of us, we have certain likes and dislikes at the level of our senses, and we are born with that. And some likes and dislikes we generate while living in this world, but lot of them we carry from our past lives. You will find a little child also have a natural liking for something to see, something to feel, something to eat. Certain things they like, children also, certain things they like and certain things they don't like. There is no logic. You can't say that, oh, because of this they don't like. There's no logic. They just don't like certain things. And also the way it is presented, if you give them tomato, they will not like it, but if you give them tomato sauce, they will like it. If you tell them to drink milk, they don't like. If you give ice cream, they will like. So we have our own likes and dislikes at the level of our senses, which we carry from our past. So when we live in this world, constant stimuli we get from the world and we get attracted towards them. The senses are attracted towards them. Sometimes certain things are there present in front of us, but we don't know their quality. We don't know their speciality. So somebody tells us about that, and that creates more attraction toward that object in our mind. That is how the advertisement and propaganda and publicity works. One product is there, they show on television, this product is there. Then they will show all the features of that product, how it is and how you can use it and how it will be so nice if you have it. So just looking at that product, you did not know all this, but when they tell you about all its features, you start getting more and more attracted, more and more interested. Just like this phone also, mobile phone also, different companies, they have their different brands and they have different features. So they will do the publicity that we have these features. This is a new model which has come and it has got this special camera with more proper finer definition. Then it has got this feature and that feature, so we get attracted towards it. So what are they doing? They are giving you all the different facets of that object. So same thing we do with our own mind also. We see something and we keep imagining, we keep thinking, we superimpose the idea of joy, we superimpose the idea of pleasure, we superimpose the idea of greatness on an ordinary object of this world. When all this is superimposed on this object, we get tremendously attracted toward that object. We ourselves project all these things on the object and we get attracted towards it. Not only toward the object, but towards people and things and beings. It can be anything. You see a pet and dog and cat and all, and you get attracted. Oh, so nice. If I can have it, that will be good. I can take the dog for a walk every day and it will be so nice. But after having, then you will know what trouble you have to face. Or you see a car, neighbor has got a new car, you think about it. Sometimes you go and check inside. You ask the neighbor, can I look? And you think, if I can sit here and drive, if my family is sitting with me and all this nice music system is there and the AC is also very nice and the whole balance is very good and it moves very smoothly and it is very nice car and all, then you develop attraction towards it. So that dhyana is thinking about all the positive qualities, all the qualities which your senses like, which your senses are attracted. You keep on thinking about it, keep on imagining it, keep on superimposing it on it. Sometimes it is not there originally in that, but you, with your imagination, you create it. Same thing happens with people also. We meet some person, then we superimpose some idea on that person. That's how one gets attracted. A boy gets attracted to a girl, girl gets attracted to a boy. We create our own imagination, own idea of glamour and pleasure and excitement and all. And the more we think, the more we get fascinated, we get attracted. Attracted means sanga. Sangas teshu pajayate. We develop attachment. Attachment means without our effortlessly, then we start thinking about that object. We develop that attraction toward that object. We want to hold that object. We want to be with that object. We want to enjoy that object. We dream about it. We visualize it. We talk about it. So it creates that sanga, it is called. Not only for, as I said, for inert object, but for people, for places also. Some people are fascinated by places. They see some video, they see some pictures, then they feel attracted. Oh, I want to go visit this country. I want to visit this place. It will be such a nice thing. Oh, snow-clad mountains, and nice, that lake is there, and such a wonderful place. I want to go. So you imagine, and that imagination is what is called visualization, what is called dhyana here. Saguna dhyan of this world. Imagining all pleasures and everything on them. So dhyayato vishayans pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate. One develops great attraction. Our mind gets attracted toward that object and then start longing for that object. Start that developing that intense thirst to possess it, to acquire it, to have it. Though it doesn't belong to me, but still I will imagine. Many people go do that window shopping or go to a mall, and we are allowed to even touch a lot of those items. So we hold it, we try to use it and touch it. You go to all those dress shop, and you wear them, try it out, and you look yourself in the mirror. You are looking more cute, you think. Others also who have come, they said, "Arey wah, बहुत अच्छा लगता है आप पर. You are looking so nice, just like that heroine or that hero." So you feel more attracted towards it. So you get attached to that object. That's called sanga. You want to possess it, you want to hold it, you want to keep it with yourself. It doesn't belong to you. But that force is there within. Your mind becomes restless. Your intellect becomes restless. The intellect starts thinking and planning how I can acquire this. What is the strategy? What is the technique by which I can acquire this object? The mind also constantly is in that mode only. And when we are too much in that thing, that we become unaware of other things also. So too much attraction towards one, I start neglecting other thing. One gets attracted towards some other person, so he starts neglecting his own family members also. He says, no, she is more beautiful than my family member. So one gets attracted towards other person, start imagining, then start planning. If some dharmic way is there to acquire it, that is nice, I will try it out. But if not, then I try some adharmic way, some by hook or by crook, I try to acquire it. Because that attraction is there. Then mind becomes so restless, it doesn't want anything. It says, nahi, ye nahi, to kuch nahi hai. If I don't have that object, what is the fun? What is life? Jindagi kya hai? Kuch nahi hai. All this is useless. If I don't get that person, what is the use of living? If I don't get that object, what is the fun of living? If I don't go to that place, what have I done in life? So I become very sad thinking of that, and I want to acquire it, I want to possess it, I want to be with it. So this is called sanga, attachment gets developed. And when that attachment becomes too strong, then I developed that kamana. Kamana means I want to possess it. I want to acquire it. I want it. Bas, full stop. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. So when that sangha becomes too much, that attraction in my mind becomes too much, when I think that my life will be miserable without that, then I develop that strong desire to possess it. See, in the case of Ravan also, he was sitting in Lanka, everything was fine for him. Then suddenly one day that his sister Surpanaka came with her nose and ears bleeding. He asked, what happened? Are you fine? So Surpanaka was very angry with Ravan. He said, you are sitting here and having a jolly good time and you don't know what is happening in your kingdom, and look at your own sister being treated like this, so bad. So Ravana did not, he must have thought, acha ho gaya. She is quite irritating. Somebody must have really done a good job. But then she also knew Ravana's nature. So she started describing the beauty of Sita ji and said that this Sita ji is there, so beautiful, and that two men are there. So I wanted to bring that Sita ji for you. She is so beautiful, so attractive. And when she described that, Ravana then got attracted and he wanted to take away Sita ji by unfair means. So same thing happens to all of us when we get attracted towards an object unfairly due to our own imagination and visualization. We want to possess it. That's called kamana. And that kamana, when it becomes strong, I want it, then the mind cannot think of anything else. That kama is a very great power. It's a great force. It possesses the whole person. Then he dreams and thinks and talks and all the time is there in the world of that object only. So kamaha sangat sanjayate kamaha. I want, full stop. That person will not think of any logic or nobody can make that person think properly. If the kamana, that person gets overpowered by kamana, if we get overpowered by this strong, intense desire, we don't see any logic. Then we don't see anything. We want to just possess that object or that person. I want to fulfill my desire. Because not fulfilling that desire is making me miserable. I am almost feeling that I will die. I feel suffocated. I feel that whole thing is useless. The whole life is useless. Everything makes no sense. If my kamna is not fulfilled, what is the use? So that intense desire makes his intellect go in that direction, planning and contemplating how to acquire it. His mind and emotions are also involved in it. His body, his senses are also involved in it. If you tell that person meditate and all, the meditation will not happen on Bhagwan. If you tell that person, okay, let us study Bhagavad Gita will not be able to, he will not be able to study. If you tell that person, let us sit and do some japa or puja or anything, he will say, nahi, mera man nahi lagta hai. If you tell the person, okay, let us go to satsang, nahi, mujhe satsang mein nahi jana hai, what is there, what God, which God, no God. So that person is not available for anything because of this intense kamana, and when that kamana he will try to fulfill, but if it doesn't get fulfilled, if some obstacles are there, if some other problems are there, then it will lead to frustrations. He will get frustrated. If there is if some obstacle which he sees, then that all his kamna will get converted into anger. into hatred, into dislike, into impatience, frustration, agitation. All these are all relatives of anger only. So kamat krodho vijayate, the kama gets converted into krodha. When it is obstructed, then that energy of kama itself gets converted into krodha. If it is not obstructed, it keeps moving towards acquiring that object. But when it is obstructed by whatever, whoever, even with our obstructed by our own ideas and all, we will drop that idea. If deep within myself the thought comes that, oh, it is adharma, you should not do and all, then I will drop that idea from my own mind. If I say, oh, you have heard that Bhagavad Gita says like that, then I will drop even that idea of Bhagavad Gita or the satsang or everything from my mind. I say, no, nothing. Even God comes, I will say, nahi, nahi, beech mein se hat jao. I want that object. So that power, that strength, that force is there. Just like a river in flood, very difficult to stop it. It will take away everything with it, destroy anything which comes in between and move towards its goal. Similarly, a person with intense kamana is like a river in flood. It will destroy everything in between, anything coming in between. So kamat krodho vijayate. Krodhat bhavati. Then krodha is not the final. When that krodha is there, then what will happen? That the whole mind, the intellect is occupied by krodha, overpowered by krodha. Then what will happen? It will lead to sammoha. Sammoha means he will not be able to discriminate. He will not be able to evaluate situation properly. His intellect will not function properly. He will not be able to evaluate things. That is sammoha. Even if he is the greatest, most intelligent and most dharmic also and most good person also, but at the moment when that krodha overpowers him, he will not be able to think rationally. He will not be able to think properly. Will not be able to arrive at proper decision. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji writes, avivekah karya vishayah. He will have that avivek about what to do, what not to do. He will not be able to evaluate things properly. Will even fight with his own elders and seniors and all without thinking properly. So that's called sammoha. And when that sammoha comes, when the whole delusion, when so much of confusion and delusion is there, where the intellect cannot evaluate things properly, then what will happen? This will lead to smriti bhramshaha. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. That is all his memory. See, whatever we do, satsang, we do studies, contemplation, all that we learn, all our wisdom is stored in our memory. Like now you are listening to me, lot of things will get stored in your memory. Some of them will get evaporated, but hopefully lot of good things will get stored. And what happens? What is the use of this memory? When the situation comes wherein we require a particular type of wisdom, then that wisdom just pops up. That's a beautiful mechanism of our own antakarana. Shankaracharya ji, he writes कि शास्त्र आचार्य उपदेशाहित संस्कार जनिताया स्मृतेः स्याद् विभ्रमो भ्रंशः स्मृति उत्पत्ति निमित्त प्राप्तो अनुत्पत्तिः. He said when this smriti vibhrama happens, when we have this forgetfulness, then when the right occasion is there, when we need that memory, it doesn't come. It doesn't come to help me. It doesn't come to save me. See, when you are very peaceful, nice, happy, if you are asked about some philosophy or some thought of Bhagavad Gita, you will be able to explain also. कि ऐसा करना चाहिए, ऐसा ठीक है, ये नहीं है, ये ऐसा है. But when you are overpowered by this krodha and that sammoha, then all the knowledge, everything gets forgotten. Then you will behave as though you are thoroughly ignorant and totally deluded person only. There will not be any connection between what you know and what you are doing. It will be as though you don't know anything. That's called smriti vibhramaha. Your memory will be lost. It will not. You will not be able to refer to your past data, to your past memory. So when that happens, then the buddhi cannot function, because our buddhi, it evaluates situation and it takes proper decision based on the memory. If the buddhi uses memory to evaluate, suppose you go to a doctor, just a worldly example, the doctor has learnt all his medicine, he has gone to the medical college, he has learned medicine, then he is practicing for some many years. So he has got all this in his memory. All his learning is there in his memory, all his experiences are there in memory. Then the patient comes in front of him and he just diagnoses the patient, checks his blood pressure, his temperature and all, and he, from his memory, he recollects everything properly and gives the proper advice or proper medicine to that person. Everything functions very smoothly. But then suppose a patient comes and the doctor remembers this fellow, my enemy has come, and he gets so angry. This is the one who has stolen my things and now he has come here and all. He is so angry and agitated and all that he cannot function properly. He can't take proper decisions there. He can't behave properly. So smriti bhramshat buddhi nashaha. The buddhi nasha take place. What is buddhi nasha? Means will not be able to use the buddhi properly. And buddhi nashat pranashyati. And if we cannot use the buddhi properly, we perish. Because we live in this world using our buddhi, taking decisions at every step. If we can't take proper decisions to move ahead in life, then we will not be able to live as a human beings. Then we will just perish. Bhagavan says, Shankaracharya ji, कि तावद एव ही पुरुषः यावद अंतकरणम तदीयम कार्य कार्य विषय विवेक योग्यम. That we are human beings only if we can evaluate things and understand what we have to do and what not to do. But if we fail to use our intellect in this way, then we are not fit to be human being. Tad ayogyatve nashta eva purusho bhavati. अतः तस्य अंतकरणस्य बुद्धेः नाशात् प्रणश्यति पुरुषार्थ अयोग्यो भवति इत्यर्थः. The person becomes ayogya, unfit to acquire any purushartha. We have this fourfold purushartha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. This person becomes unfit for acquiring anything. He will not be able to acquire wealth or work in this world properly. He will not get a job, or even if he gets a job, he will not work and he will be kicked out of that job. He will not be able to enjoy anything in this world. He will, all these pleasures also he will not be able to enjoy properly. He will not be able to walk the path of dharma and forget about attaining moksha. So all these things happen. This is a great fall, and it begins by contemplating and thinking about the objects of this world, imagining pleasure, imagining security, imagining greatness in the objects of this world. That is how it binds us. That is how it binds us. Therefore, Bhagwan, our Acharya also, Shankaracharya ji, says elsewhere that one has to think about the defects of these objects, see the other side of this object, and become free of their attraction. Nari stanabharanabhidesham drishtva maga mohavesham etan mamsavasadi vichkaram manasi vichintaya varam varam. One gets attracted, a girl gets attracted to a boy gets attracted to a girl. If we think from the other standpoint, we see the other side of the coin, then we will not have that attraction. We get attracted toward the object, towards some place. See that thing from the other standpoint. Don't only see the positive, see the negative. See what is harmful in that. Then we will develop proper vairagya towards it. So, meditation wrongly on an object can lead to a fall. But if we live properly in this world, meditating on Ishvara and leading a proper life, we will become free. And that's what Bhagwan says, that we should try to acquire prasad. He says in the next verse, a very beautiful verse, he says, Ragadvesha viyuktestu Vishayanindriyascharan Atmavashyer vidheyatma prasadam Bhagwan says that it is not that you have to close your eyes or close your senses towards the world. The scriptures don't say that you stop indulging in the world, because in order to live, we need to eat, we need to drink, we need to rest, we need a house, we need clothes, we need certain things to make our life possible on earth. We can't avoid it. So there are some objects which we need in our life. So we should first be able to understand what are the needs and what are the greed. Greed should be avoided. Need is fine. Everyone has got their own needs. So minimum, whatever is required for my livelihood, I can take it from the world. So here a very beautiful advice Bhagwan gives, कि राग द्वेष वियुक्तेस्तु विषयान इंद्रियश्चरन्. You move around in this world, experiencing the joys and sorrows, indulging with the pleasures and pain of this world, without having raga and dvesha towards them, without getting too much attached to them or developing dislike towards them. Whatever is required, you just use them. See, we have to live, we want to eat, we want to drink. So whatever comes according to your own kartavya karma, what you have got, nija karmopattam vittantena vinodaya chittam. So whatever has come into your life, so you use it. You eat food, you have water to drink, you have clothes to wear, you have a house to live in. So indulge in all these things without getting too attached to them or without having dislike towards them. There should not be likes also and dislike also. So just use it. Use the thing and move ahead. See, when we are traveling, let us say by train, you have booked your ticket, so you catch the train, you go into your compartment, then you check the seat number and all, and you sit there. So during the journey, you use that seat as though it belongs to you. You enjoy the journey also. But when you have reached your destination, you just get up from that place and just come out of the train, go towards your own destination. You don't hold on to that seat. You don't carry that seat with you. It was temporarily given to you for your journey. So make best use of it and then just move ahead. Don't spoil it when you are using. Don't change it. Just use it. And then just leave it and go ahead. Similarly, this body and this world is given to us for our journey towards moksha. So just use whatever is given and just move ahead. Don't get too attached to it and don't have repulsion towards it also. Both are bad. So ragadvesha viyuktaestu vishayan indriyescharan atma vashyar vidheyatma. One should have total control over our own emotions and over our own antakarana. So with total control over your antakarana, live in this world, interacting with people, enjoying the joys and sorrows of this world without having any attachment or repulsion towards anything. See, Bhagwan is very interesting. This shloka is talking about how we should live in this world for a person who is following the path of meditation. All the time we can't keep our eyes closed and sit at one place. We have to open our eyes and move in this world. So when we are doing that, Bhagwan says you live without ragadvesha, having your antakarana completely under your control. So that prasada buddhi we should have, that whatever is given to us is given by Bhagwan. The world is given to us. All the objects and people who are there have also come in my life, given to me by Ishvara, so that my journey towards my supreme goal becomes easy and beneficial. So with this attitude, when I live in this world, I will gain what is called prasad. Prasadam adhigacchati. What is prasad? Prasad is prasannata. Prasada prasannata swasthyam. Swasthyam. A deep feeling that I am comfortable with myself and the world around me. A total sense of ease with myself and the world. No complaint towards myself and toward the world. There are some people who are constantly in the state of complaining. They are like complaint box. Some people are suggestion box, some people are complaint box. Constantly complaining about everything. About themselves, about their family, about their bahu, about their neighbor, about their boss, about the surrounding, about the government, about the society, about everything, about other countries, about China and how all these things have spread, about other countries. All the time complaining. Complaining to whom? Complaining to whoever comes in front of them. And nowadays with all the social media, they pour out the complaint in all the medias. They will put a very enthusiastic and full of energy video also about all their complaint on all the social medias. So a lot of people will watch it and then have their own like and comments and all. So constantly complaining. And while complaining itself, the person then one fine morning dies and leaves this world. And again is born and again continues with his complaining. Non-stop. कुछ नहीं है उसमें. See, the world will not become perfect. World is not meant to be perfect. World is a karma bhumi. Karma bhumi means place for us to perform karma. If it is perfect, then we will not be able to do anything. Only when it is imperfect, only when something is missing, we will have the opportunity to do. If everything is perfect and balanced and everything is, then आप क्या करोगे then? You become superfluous. So world will always be like this. It's a karma bhumi. So you will have to keep on working, doing your duties, doing what you have to do, without having ragat dvesha. So ragat dvesha viyuktestu vishayan indriyascharan. Live in this world, enjoying the joys and sorrows of this world, atma vasher vidheyatma, with a total control over our antakarana. According to our own desire, according to our own understanding, our antakarana should be under our control. Under control means the emotions of our antakarana should not wander without my permission. There should not be anything just like that happening. My emotions, my response, my understanding, my behavior, my attitude, all should be under my control. And this will happen when I have my vision of attaining Ishvara. When I am living here, not as a manager, but as a seeker. I am not the owner of this world. I am not the master of this world. I have just been given this world so that I can move on my spiritual journey. So do what you have to do. Not that you become lazy, not that you neglect your duty, not that you don't try to change or reform things. Do what you have to do, but keep a proper attitude and continuously move towards doing that. If we develop this attitude, how we will know? We will gain prasad. Just like when we do puja, we get prasad. Similarly, if you live in this way, you will gain prasad. Prasad means a deep, unconditional joy in our heart, a deep sense of satisfaction. We have not reached the ultimate goal. We are still seekers. But even in this stage, with this attitude, one will develop the deep sense of fulfillment, prasada, prasannata, that inner joy. The joy which is not because of some condition outside, the joy not because of some person, not because of some object, not because of interacting with something, but that inner joy, the joy of just being, the joy of being alive, the joy of being a seeker, the joy of being a lover of Bhagwan, the joy of being a sadhak on the path of meditation, very pleased and very happy with ourselves. Sometimes we are afraid, people are afraid to be happy because they feel that if I am happy, I will not do anything. If I am happy, then I will not progress. If I am happy, then I will not move towards success. Bhagavan says, no. You be content and happy and do what your duties are. You don't have to strive to be successful. You have to strive to do all your duties properly. What is this foolish thing about becoming successful and all? You strive to fulfill all your duties properly and be happy deeply. Because this is a temporary phase, we are not here permanently in this world. The world was there before I came into this world. The world will remain even when I leave and go. All my complaints and this and that, all those people who are presently complaining and talking a great philosophy and telling how we can modify and transform this world and aisa karenge, waisa karenge, all will be dead. In the next 100 years, we will have a new set of people. All those human beings who are present now will not be there after 100 years. Just a rough figure. There might be some people who are living longer. But in 100 years, we will have a new set of people. But unfortunately, they will also read history. They might read some wrong history also. They might get inspired by the past people and start living wrongly. But otherwise, the world will go on. The world will go on. So you make best use of your life, become free of raga dvesha, enjoy the pleasures and pain of this world, have your antakarana in your control, and live in this way. Bhagavan says you will gain prasad. You will become prasanna, that inner joy will come. And this inner joy, this prasada is very, very important if you want to meditate. And that is what now Bhagavan will tell in the next verse, the outcome of this prasad, the beauty of this prasad, that we will see in our class tomorrow. Till then, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, contemplate on what you have heard and try to practice it, put it into practice. That will be nice. Because this Bhagavad Gita is not meant just to study and then enjoy. No, it's a textbook which guides us, helps us in our sadhana. It takes us towards our ultimate goal. So just have faith in the teachings of Gita and put it into practice and experience for yourself how beautiful it is. Okay? So we'll meet tomorrow. Hari Om. And I am very happy that all of you participate in this live streaming. So all of you are here. So I am very pleased. Though I don't see you, but I know that you are present here and listening so attentively and nicely. And it is helping me also to contemplate and keep my mind in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So mutually we are benefiting. I am also benefiting. And hopefully all of you are also benefiting. So together we will utilize this time to move ahead on our spiritual journey. Okay? Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. जय जय राम। बोलिए सियावर रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।